people when I talk during the introduction. And we are live. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Harvey, can you just confirm, please, if you can see my screen?
Yep, looks good.
Yeah, we can.
All right, cool. Thanks, Luis. All right, let's do it. So we can see a few people are joining. So the meeting is recorded. We'll share the video on YouTube, probably tomorrow on Thursday. So let's start. So welcome everyone to join this Ask Me Anything session. So we're really hoping to keep this session as interactive as possible. So please, we'll monitor the chat. If you have a question, please post it on the chat. Today we're going to talk about Pulse, Arc Plus, Slice, and PowerConnect. So yeah, if you have any questions regarding our software, please post it on the chat, and we'll monitor it. We're monitoring the chat, and as soon as there is a question, we'll answer it live. So just one more slide, just if you haven't seen it. So this is really our main focus at Cubewise Software, is really to help the Tier 1 developers through all the steps of the DevOps or continuous integration / continuous delivery. And to do this, you really need to have Arc and Pulse. So Arc is our development software where you can build your processes, rules, cubes. And with Pulse, this is where Pulse will monitor all your TML applications, store this information in powerful database, so you can analyze all this data, and you can do the migration live. And now when you connect Arc with Pulse, you can now do automated tests, and you get a lot of features in Pulse, which are now available inside Arc. So it's really, if you need really Arc and Pulse to be able to leverage all the features which are available in Arc and Pulse. So on that, I will hand over to Harvey to show the latest features of Arc Plus.
We actually have a question coming in. I don't know if you want to address
cool.
it. Jeffrey Fisher asks, with PowerConnect, how do we grant access to control objects? I have access in Pathway and Paw, but not PowerConnect. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, well, maybe we can show it a bit later when we show PowerConnect. Yeah, maybe we'll show it when doing Louis' presentation. But you should see the objects in the menu inside the Power BI desktop. So let's tackle this question after. So another question, I'm not familiar with Slice. Where does that fit in? All right, well, we'll talk about Slice a bit later. Are there any plans to integrate Arc and Pulse with any way with Git? So thanks for your question. So with Pulse, Pulse integrates a local Git repository for the change tracking. So if you have a remote Git, there is a script in Pulse to push the change tracking information inside the local Git to a remote Git, to commit all the code changes to central Git. So yeah, so that's how you would do it. So Pulse will track the changes inside the local Git, inside the Pulse folders, but then you have a script that you can run to push this into your remote Git repository. There is a question from Paul. Have you considered integrating Jupyter Notebook or something similar in Arc? Yeah, so that's a good question. So you're probably referring to using Python. Yeah, we have a lot of customers now using Python with TM1, especially with TM1Py. And yes, it is we are thinking about helping you to build Python script inside Arc, but it's in our list, but we haven't time to tackle this one. Don't know, Harvey, if you want to add something about Python and
Yeah, well, just that,
Jupyter.
you know, we're aware that Python is, for some developers, going to be the future, and we do want to support it in some way. But of course, with Jupyter Notebook out there and a whole bunch of other IDEs that are extremely advanced in writing Python scripts, and, you know, we're starting from zero, we can never really match the features of other IDEs, or at least not for a long time. So if we could integrate something else that was open source, potentially we would do that. But then we would also want sort of specific tier 1 features in there as well. So it's kind of a complex question how you actually balance all of those needs at the same time. So we're certainly thinking about it, and we've got a few enhancement requests already submitted to do something along those lines. We're just trying to work out exactly what it would look like. So if you've got any ideas, feel free to put enhancement requests in the support site, because yeah, we need to get as much feedback as possible on what the needs are there.
All right. Well, thanks for these first questions. So yeah, Javi, do you want to take over and show the latest features of R+?
Sure. So feel free to just jump in and ask questions as we go, but I'll just go through some of the latest features. We've got all of the new features in 5.1, and a couple of features as well that are in development at the moment. It'll be in the next version, so you'll get a bit of a preview of those, which is cool. So one of the sort of deceptively simple features that's fairly new is this flow diagram button. So this is an Arc Plus feature that relies on the connection to Pulse. And from a bunch of these editors now, you can access this button. And when you click it, it gives you a flow diagram that's focused on the object that you've got open. So in this case, we have the department dimension open, and it's showing some of the TI processes that access that dimension and the fact that it feeds into the general ledger and so on. So that's a really handy way to, if you're not familiar with the model, or if you're trying to check maybe what knock-on effects your code changes might have, it's a really quick way to see what the dependencies are. And these dependencies all come out of Pulse. So if you've generated a flow diagram in Pulse, you get that big diagram, and you can set options and make it get this diagram, but Arc does all that work for you and just gives you a nice, concise way to look at your object. Likewise, if you've got a cube view open, same button, same functionality. This one's the employee cube, and it can show you all of the things that feed into it and all the things that pull data from it. And the other interesting thing about this diagram is these yellow squares are missing objects. So it's a really good way to define, to say, hang on a sec, I think we might have a rule in the employee cube here that refers to a cube or something else that doesn't exist. And you can see here there's 3. So I don't know, this is Lewis's model, so it's all his fault. But yeah, it's quite handy to identify potential issues that you've got in your rules in TI. And speaking of TI, if you open a TI, of course, you've got the flow diagram button in there as well. And again, it just gives you a similar thing, but with the TI in the center and all the objects that feed into it. So again, it's a fairly easy one-click feature that can give you a lot of information. Can we have a key on the flow? A key being to show what the different shapes mean as far as what objects they are. Does the flow diagram support a key or a legend, Vincent? I can't remember.
Yeah, no, there is no.
It does, doesn't it?
No legend, but
it doesn't.
Yeah, there is not many shapes. Because if you go back, if for the general ledger employee, you can see if it's a square. If it's a square, it's a cube. If
it's
the
also
green,
color coded.
Yeah, you have the color and the shape.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not sure the name of the other shape. The green one, or the green one is a process. It's all the same. The red one is a dimension. It's only if it's yellow where it's an object that do not exist, but yeah, there is no legend.
maybe that if it's something that you feel it's needed, can be a feature request, but that would be
Yeah,
on the Pulse side. So request that on the Pulse support side. But yeah, absolutely, that's something that could potentially be done. I find you get used to the colors pretty quickly, if not the shapes. So
yeah.
All right. So next feature in these summary pages now, we have a few new buttons that do some Pulse integration. So, sorry, let me. Do you only get the flow diagram if you have Pulse? Yes, that's generated by Pulse. So we need this Pulse connection here. So we're calling that Arc Plus. I'm not sure if we've explained how the products work, but Arc Plus is Arc connected to Pulse. So an Arc Plus feature is always going to be required. You're going to require that you have Pulse as well and connect the two. So now in here, we've had, if you've got a cube open, you can, if you've got the rules open, you can validate, and it'll give you all of the Pulse validations for that particular piece of code. But that's only useful if you've got the rules open and you know where to look. So now in this summary page for cubes, we can do the same thing, but it'll just do all of the cubes in one big batch. So if you click the validation button, if there's more than 10, it'll just prompt you to say, you sure you want to do it? Because, it'll put a bit of a load on the Pulse server. Plus, it takes a little while, but as you'll see, it's actually quite fast.
Yeah,
And
maybe just
doing...
to add, Harvey, just to add to explain what are these rules, these validation rules, because they are not like errors in your process. Best practice rules that are defined by default in Pulse. You can change these rules if you want, but they are like, you
so
could might be,
set up in Pulse. And you can add and remove whatever rules that you need for your organization. So some of them you might find you don't want to include. The other thing is each of these rules has a level, and in Arc you can set the level for rules. So Pulse validation min level 21, so it'll ignore anything that is lower level than that. So anything that's 20 gets ignored in the UI. So you can set that up so that you're filtering out rules that you don't want to include in the current validation. And then once it's finished going through, it just gives you a count of how many issues it found in each cube, and you can sort that column. And if you click on the number, it'll give you a list of all of the issues. So that's pretty handy just to have a quick look at the kinds of things that are going wrong. And as you can see here, there's nothing too major. These are, best practice rules. They're not necessarily detecting things that won't work, but they might overfeed, they might be a little bit inefficient, or, other issues like that. And likewise, we can do it with processes as well. So I've got like a couple of hundred processes in here. I'll just do the whole batch. And we'll see how many it finds. As you can see, it takes a bit longer to do a couple of hundred objects, but it's not too bad. As you go through, it starts to collect all of the TI processes that have validation issues. And again, you can just click on the number at any point and see the full list. And as you can see, these ones are, again, fairly harmless, just having hard-coded strings and things like that. But stuff that maybe if you change it to a variable, it'll be easier to maintain for another developer. So good stuff there. And one of the other things that this could be used for, or will be used for, is to detect functions that are called in TIs that are either only available in V12 or that have been deprecated in V12. So we haven't put together the rule set yet, but that'll be an upcoming feature where you'll be able to do a validation, and it'll tell you all of the TI processes that use functions that are only in V12, or vice versa, functions that are unavailable in V12. So that'll be very handy as well. Is there a question there?
Yeah, I can reply on the PowerConnect. Yeah, actually, yeah, with PowerConnect, currently it requests the list of cubes and without the control objects. So we can obviously create an enhancement for PowerConnect to request the control objects if you need. Yeah, that's it.
All right. So these summary pages, or I guess you could call them TM1 object list pages, have a few other features in them now. So you'll notice you can check individual items here. When you do, a few things light up over here that you can do. Obviously, you can delete them. Don't do that unless you really want to delete them. But one of the useful things that we've added here is now you can migrate the selected cubes or TI processes or other objects as well using Pulse. So if you click that now, you'll see it's got them pre-selected, the objects that I checked using the checkboxes. And you can add other objects in here if you wanted to, include a couple of TI processes in your migration, you can do that, or chores, dimensions. So you can just modify it there. And when you click OK, it'll start a Pulse migration. So you can see it pops up saying it's preparing it. And in a sec, we'll see it open in Pulse. Or maybe we won't. Okay, well, not sure why that's not working. Maybe I'm not logged in properly. Anyway, the idea of that feature is it just kicks off a Pulse migration. So it'll hand you over to Pulse at that point, and you can just do your migration as you normally do. And the other feature that we have in here now, for those of you who are working with the unit testing, is you can select multiple objects in here, and you can click to generate unit tests for those objects. So what that actually does is it creates unit tests in the test hub for the selected objects that are like a starting point for that object. So I'll show you in a sec. So again, it's a similar user interface. It's just got a few things here at the top. So you can assign a category, you can make a new category, or you can select an existing one. I've created a category called import, which I use to do all my imports, and then I go and organize them later. So that way it makes it easy to find them if you've got a big list of unit tests in there. You can also assign them to a collection if you want to. I won't do that for now, but you can. And again, you can add other objects in here if you need to manually. And then when you click OK, it'll take you to the test hub. And you'll see in here, if we filter by import, which is the category that I assigned, all of those tests have been generated. So for all of the objects that we selected. And for the process, you can see it gives you a title. It's got generated in brackets, so you know it's generated. It assigns the category for you. It gives you a default description. You'd probably want to update that. It assigns the action for you. You may want to have setup and cleanup that you would change manually. And it gives you a basic assertion that that process ran successfully. But you'll probably want to then add other assertions as well to that. So it's just a starting point. It's not supposed to be a complete test. There's no real way for Arc to know how to test a TI process. It doesn't know what they do. So the human has to step in there. But it's certainly a good way to create a whole bunch of placeholders for objects that you want to test and then go through one by one and create them all. Likewise for the cube, it just gives you a rule execute test type with the cube pre-selected for you. And an assertion, this is not finished yet. You need to go in and select the value that you want to check and what you want to check it against. But it's certainly a good starting point. So yeah, that's a handy one. You can also access that from here in the test hub, and you can just manually select your objects here. It does the same thing. So you can get that from multiple points in Arc. And I apologize if you haven't seen the test hub. Maybe if there's anyone who needs a refresher on how the test hub works or whatever, we can do that towards the end. But yeah, that's sort of for people who already have dived in. And if you haven't, you should. It's a pretty revolutionary new feature and possibilities for Team 1 that we haven't had before. Yeah, the other one that I wanted to show is if you don't happen to have Pulse, but you still want to identify V12 functions, we have you covered for that. So instead of doing it in the validation, we can actually do it in the code editor as well. So if you go into these options here, you can go highlight V12 functions. And you'll see now this save data all is underlined. That's because save data all isn't supported in TM1 V12. And if you have any functions that are only supported in V12, like HTTP response get status code, you can see that underlines in green. So that's saying it must be on a V12 server for this TI to work. Of course, if you've got both, then it won't work on any server. And yeah, don't do that because that's wrong. But that's just a little handy visual indicator for people who don't happen to have Pulse and can't do the full validation. It's another way that you can access the information for when you're doing your code.
Cool.
All right. And
thanks, Harvey. Yeah.
We have the upcoming stuff, Vincent, but I don't know if you want to save that till the end.
Yeah, we save it to the end, the teaser.
Right. I'll kick it back to you for now then.
Yeah, so there was a question about Paul for a specific enhancement. So Paul, I replied to you on your tickets. But yeah, we really appreciate all the enhancement requests and ideas that are created by our customers and colleagues at Cubewise. All the features that are coming in our products are coming from requests from you guys. So really appreciate, but we can't tackle them all. So we're doing our best to tackle them as soon as possible. But yeah, we have a big list now of features we want to add. So we do our best, but sometimes it takes some time to get to your tickets. Vikas asked if as part of the migration does it also displays the dependent object as an option to include. So yes, so actually I will show it after about Perl. So actually in Arc you just select the main object you want to migrate. Like for example, if you want to migrate a cube, General Ledger, you just select the cube, and then it takes you to Pulse, and Pulse will add the dependency. So you don't need to select all the dependencies in Arc. Pulse will include the dependencies later, like the dimensions, attributes, pick list, all of the dependency. All right, so let's move to Slice. Luis, are you ready?
Sure.
So yeah, so Slice is an alternative. Yeah, someone was asking about what is Slice. So Slice is an Excel add-in for IBM Analytics. It is an alternative to Analytics for Excel. So if you try Analytics for Excel and if it doesn't work for you, you can try Slice. The main reason why we created Slice is because our customers were asking about creating active forms with hierarchies, or some people call alternate hierarchies. So that was the main objective that we have done. So with Slice, you can create an active forms. And instead of using dbrw, probably Luis will show it, you can use a new function called dbh, which is very similar. But with the dbh function, you can use hierarchies. So yeah, that's the introduction. Luis?
Okay, no problem.
Yeah,
can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see Excel, yeah.
Awesome. Yep. Okay, so that's to answer Angela's question as well as where does Arc actually fit in. Sorry, Slice. I've had a couple of demos recently, and surprisingly, there are still some people out there that are not aware of some of the basic features of Slice. So just really quickly to go through the context ribbon, or the ribbon that you get to see here. Well, the first one is the actual Slice Explorer, which obviously looks very familiar to Arc. And the other ones are obviously refreshing current servers and uploading any reports to your application folders that you have in your TM1 instance. The other four are I'm just going to be using these four as I go and show you different features. And the rest, these are really interesting ones, that the toggle active form format area, which comes in hidden, and you can show and hide and unhide them without actually selecting the rows, which I guess for some of you can be a little bit painful. And the rest are, well, obviously the settings, where you can actually set up ARC in different ways. In some cases, we sometimes ask for people, when they log an enhancement or a ticket, what ARC version do you have, or what slice version do you have? If you click on the About, you can actually see there the version. It's important for us to know what version you're using. And latest, this is the actual business edition. In my case, obviously we have the free edition, which you can download and try and have a go. Okay, so one of the first things we can do with Slice, obviously, is picking a cube, right? And this is one of my favorite buttons. All the stuff that you can do with Excel in Slice, we can obviously have a snapshot. We can create a slice. I'm just going to do this really quickly. So if we do a slice, there's nothing strange for anyone worried about letting go on perspectives, which I know it's making a little bit of noise out there. At least with the slides, you get the same look and feel, DVRWs, as you would with perspective. So that's one of the ideas and the reasons of why we created slices, so you have the smoothest possible transition you can from perspectives to a new way to explore your data. Yep. So that's fairly simple. So I'm going to open something that I pre-cooked already, just for you to take a quick look. So I'm just going to reveal this sheet. So this is a unique slice feature that we have. You can right-click on any cell in your spreadsheet, and you can take a look at the context menu that we have. The context menu is dynamic, so it really changes depending on where you click in and what sort of options you have. So in this case, I created an active form with dynamic columns. So that's something very unique to Slice. So in other words, we can expand and collapse the different columns as you would normally on the rows. But so we have brought into this feature, as Vincent mentioned, based on enhancement requests that we had in the past. So something brand new on Slice as well is the actual cross drill that we have. So for example, I have this active form DVRW, nothing fancy about that. However, if let's say I want to look at my operating expenses and I want a breakdown of that by another dimension, now you can see my context menu has changed because I'm clicking on a cell in a report. So Slice obviously is smart enough to identify that, and it gives me the ability to have this cross drill, right? So let's say I want a breakdown of these operating expenses by region. So if I do that, now you see I have the different regions, but that was only inserted in below the cell that I selected. So the remain or the rest of the active form stays as it is. I know in perspectives, the active forms, whenever you expand on one row, you used to expand the whole thing together. So in this case, and in particular with the cross drill, I can actually expand on that cross drill, but it expands independently on the whole active form. In fact, let's say I go into this other cell called discounts, and I can actually insert another cross drill, right? In this case, I'm not going to do it by region. Maybe I want a different dimension. So I do departments, and we'll only have one department in this example, but this is it, right? So that's how you can do it. If I use this toggle button that I was telling you before, you can see that the actual cross drill, so it's abbreviated by the CD. You can also have a particular formatting style for that. So in this case, it's this way, but you can obviously set it up as you wish. So once you rebuild the form, it resets itself, so you can start the dynamic exploration with the cross drill once again in any way, shape, or form that you like. Okay, so something else that we have that Vincent was saying is we have this DBR WH, as you can see right here. So that's a new way where you can actually leverage hierarchies using different reports, right? It could be an active form, for example, or it could be an MDX form as well, right? So, and I'm just going to do that actually from scratch here so you can actually see what I mean. So if I actually expand, I have within the region dimension, I'm just going to expand that so you can actually see it, and it's a little bit better. I have another hierarchy called currency. So that currency is basically based on an attribute that is assigned to the region or the country and the currency that it uses, right? So if I go and say, well, I actually want to have my region on my rows, and actually I want my currency hierarchy from the region dimension on the columns. So then you can actually see the different currencies on across the columns, right? So if I go and I say, well, I want to create an active form with this, right? And let's just say one. Now you're going to see that DBHW, right? Is the way that is reading that basically Slice knows that is using a hierarchy, and that applies to any alternate hierarchy that you have for any dimension, right? And of course, the active form works in exactly the same way as you would normally do with active form. So there's nothing different except by the actual formula. Another way that you can do that is using MDX forms. So the MDX form is a form that is driven by a single MDX query, right? In this case, I'm going to unhide that. And if I go to here, now you can see that I'm just using an MDX query to drive the whole form, but I have exactly the same layout as the active form that I just showed you before, right? And now you can also refresh the active form and have the whole data coming through in this cross hierarchy mode, if you will.
Hey, Lewis,
yeah.
Before you move on, we've actually got a question that's relevant to where you were a few seconds ago. Yeah. Is DBH comparable to TM1 val? Are they similarly performant? If so?
Well, in terms of performance, I wouldn't. We haven't actually measured that, for that matter. But I would say, I mean, in terms of performance, I would compare it more with the DBRW. Really, you know, it's unless you guys think and it works in another way. But performance-wise, we haven't had a problem with that.
Yeah, we haven't compared the DBHW with the TM1 val. We built the DBHW function 2 years ago, and the TM1 val function has been released a couple of months ago. So for us, we haven't really looked at the TM1 val function. We are not sure if the TM1 val is available in an active form. I haven't tried it myself, but I don't know if someone can confirm on the chat. But yeah, for us, you can use the DBHW on all the reports that you're familiar with, like Slice and active forms.
Okay.
Yeah.
No worries. So moving on MDX forms, which I really like MDX forms, but you can do really cool stuff. We actually have on our website a whole hands-on manual for slides where it covers how to build MDX forms from scratch. This is just a way to show you something simple but easy to do, in which you have an MDX form. That MDX query, as you can see, there's nothing extremely crazy about it. And all you do, and all you can do with the data validation dropdown is just replace the different hierarchies. So the actual MDX forms responds to that hierarchy. Say, for example, if I go and click neighborhood and rebuild the form, it'll give me the hierarchy of neighborhood for this particular cube called listing, and displays the price and the average price for that. And I can revert back and also say, well, show me the room type and so on, right? So again, it can be more complicated. You can get top counts. You can do anything that you can do basically with MDX. You can just place it in the MDX form and it will render accordingly. Yeah. So some of the features that we have had in slides for a little while already, but I think they're slightly overlooked, are the DBS and the paste range, right? These are pretty handy if you're an end user and you're inputting or sending data back to the cube itself. So in this case, you can see my sales units. In this case, is a DBS formula, which is looking at that particular value on row 14 that I want to send. However, if I go and say refresh sheet, you see that nothing actually happens. If I say rebuild, nothing happens. Why? Because I have a DBSW formula, which is basically a contingency. If for whatever reason you press refresh and you weren't ready, or you name it, you can wait until you have prepared your data, your calculations before sending them to the cube, and press DBS send. Right. So I'm going to open the actual cube. I think it's the retail cube in this case. And in that cube, we have a sales budget, which is 0. So if I actually go back here and say DBS send, and now I have the DBS actual send, refresh, and now you can see the actual rule kicked in because now it has values in it, right? So if I come back to the DBS send and do that quick refresh, now we can see our values there. Now, another way to send values to a cube could be, let's say I want to reset it back to 0, so I can actually copy that range and go into my DBRW formulas and say, just click in that button of slice that says paste range, paste it in there, refresh the whole sheet, and you see it's back to 0, right? So I'm pasting, not pasting the actual formulas as you would normally go if you go Control-C and Control-V or copy and paste. In here, we actually have pasted values, right? So again, this is simple features that have been in slides for a little while, but they're very handy, and I think it's very important for you to at least know that you can, that they're there and you can use them. Something else are the virtual consolidations. So you can actually come into any sub-NM. In this case, I'm sticking to the region dimension. Double click, so it opens the subset editor. And in that subset editor, well, actually, I can pick, let's say, Scotland, France, and Northern Ireland. And if I click OK, you will see them on the top with a plus sign. And if I actually rebuild the sheet, it'll add them up. So basically, it's that virtual consolidation taking place in your active form or in your report, right? It's that simple, really, but just know that it's there. Something else that you can use as well are the virtual expressions. I know maybe some of you are not familiar with them, but there are also they're MDX driven, and then you can make other type of calculations if you don't have a rule for that or you don't have a consolidation for that. You can do that. So basically, how does it work? So I have my DBRW formula, but for the actual region dimension, I'm saying I'm using a simple lookup to use a different type of expression, right? In this case, I've just put 3, but as you can see, you have quite others, right? So if I say, well, for total Europe, I want to see what is the minimum value for all the children within the total Europe consolidation, and just say review that sheet, and it'll give me that minimum value, right? Or again, I can say, well, give me the average of the children in the total Europe consolidation, and it will give me the average for every month for every, basically the average in every DBRW formula that you have. So again, you can have any type of virtual expressions as you like, and obviously they're MDX driven, so you can actually do it pretty simple. And the last one, I think, is something that this is not a new feature from Slice. It's actually a feature that TM1 has had for many years, which is the drill through. But I'd just like to show you in Slice, how does it look, right? So again, if I go to, say, for example, my retail, I'm in my GL cube. I go to my net sales that are coming from retail, and I right click. Once again, the context menu is going to tell me what sort of things do I have available. In this case, the drill through. Obviously, as you know, you create your drill through your process, through your rule in the back end, and now you can actually go and just click on that. And I really like the way it displays the drill through using the Slice Explorer. So once again, is that 25,000? Here it is. So obviously I can collapse
and with, sorry, by the way,
yep.
it looks even better with the view style. Maybe
yeah, correct.
Maybe
you can
just
actually style it, right?
Yeah,
totally.
just show some colors. Yeah.
So now you can actually have the same styling as your report, and once again, it's very simple to drill down. So I think that's it, Vincent. Unless we have any other questions, but
there was a question, Lewis, from David Peacock. Is there any difference in performance doing this versus a bottom count of 1? That came in when you were doing the virtual expression stuff.
Well, these performance questions, again, we haven't actually measured anything like that. But since both are MDX, I would say since both are MDX based, I think you will really have to test it with the amount of data that you're playing with, right? But I wouldn't expect the difference to be huge, but I think it could be an interesting exercise.
And another question, Parfait lacks the ability to undo to the same degree that perspectives could. Can Slice undo more like perspectives?
What?
Go on.
Yeah, well, it depends if you mean undo data entry.
Exactly.
So yeah, you can undo data entry in Slice. You can also undo your action in the cube view on this. So, but yeah, it depends. But what you like the undo, but yeah, in short, yes. Yeah, data entry. So yes, you can undo data entry in the cube view in Slice. Yeah. All right. Well, maybe we switch to Pulse. But just to add on Slice that all of these features have been there for a while, so we just wanted to show you the features again because some are very powerful, even though they have been built a long time ago. For Slice right now, the expectation from us is that any report that is built with perspective should work with Slice. We really built Slice to make it as easy as possible for our customers to move away from perspective. So if you build a report in perspective, you should open it in Slice and it should work. But it might not work. So that's what we have seen for the past 2 years. We are mainly focusing on the edge cases because actually perspective is quite resilient in terms of making reports to work where it should not work. Sometimes you might have errors in your Excel workbooks, but perspective find a way to make it work. So for us, as we are getting more and more customers, we are finding these edge cases. So actually, I'm going to paste the link of the support ticket. So if you open Slice and your report does not work, please let us know, because you might be doing something that we haven't faced yet, that Slice is not prepared. It is possible, but we do our best to fix it. Always, so I will, let's talk a bit about Pulse, and then we'll wrap up with PowerConnect. All right, so I'll take the screen, and so maybe just quickly to tell you that the spreadsheet that Luis has shown is available actually in the hands-on manual. So if you go to our website, code.cubewise.com, if you go to Slice or any of our product like Arc or PowerConnect, if you go to Slice, for example, to download, this is where you can download Slice for free, by the way, but there is a user manual here. When you click on this button, it will take you to the hands-on manual, and inside the hands-on manual, you will find a TM1 data folder that you can use to follow the training. So these TM1 objects are the same we are using on all our hands-on. So once this is set up, you can then go to PowerConnect. We have now hands-on for PowerConnect. If you go to download user manual for PowerConnect, and this is the same object that you will need. So if you want to try all the Slice features from the spreadsheet that Luis has shown, just go to one of the hands-on, or you can go to Slice hands-on, download the TM1 data folder, and you will find the spreadsheet. All right, so let's move to Pulse. Let's move to Pulse. We're happy to take any questions regarding Pulse. So the latest release of Pulse is version 6.5.1, and actually to show, so the main feature I want to show is the live migration of cube data. So to do this, I'm going to use Arc just to trigger the migration, but just to show you that there is no cubes in production. So this is my CXMD instance, and here this is production where there is no cubes. So you can see my cubes list is empty. So if you go to so this is my general ledger cube with some data. And what I want to do, I want to migrate this cube with the data into my production environments. So to do this, because I'm in Arc and I have Pulse, I can trigger the migration from Arc. But if you just have Pulse, you can just go to Pulse and do it, but it's convenient to do it through Arc. So there's a button here to migrate the object. So this is the same feature that Harvey has shown. So again, to migrate a cube, you just need to select your cube, general ledger, click OK, and then you can see the pop-up on the bottom right, and it's preparing the package for you. So just in a couple of seconds, it's going to open Pulse. Here we go. So now you're inside Pulse. It's like a shortcut. You could just go to Pulse and select your cube, and here it's a shortcut as you are inside Arc. I'm just going to log in. And I select my CXMD instance. And what is important is here. So this is the new feature, actually. So by default, it is unticked. So if you want to migrate cube data, you need to select this option. If you want to migrate subset for your dimensions, you can also include this option here. So what we are missing right now are views. So to do migration of view, you need to do the offline migration, but we are working on an enhancement to include views. So once we include views, the live migration will be complete. So in here, I want to show how to migrate cube data. So you need to select this option. When you create your package, you can click next. You can see my cube is here. General ledger, it is pre-selected. I can just go click next. And if you're familiar with Pulse, you will recognize the cube X, the property file for the cube that enables Pulse to create this cube, the general ledger rules, and the cube D. The cube D is the data that Pulse is going to load into the cube in the target environment. So I'm click next. This is where Pulse finds all the dependencies for you, which is very handy. All the dimensions, the subset, the pick list cube, the attributes cubes. It gets everything for you. Just can click next, and I'm just going to call this one GL. Yeah, live migration. Ask me anything. And yeah, just a description. So a title, a description, just click save. So it's creating the migration package. So this is the first step to do a migration with Pulse. You create the migration package. And once it's done, you can execute it. So this is my migration package here. Now I can execute it straight away. And I can select my production instance. I can click next. And this is where it's going to check for the changes that it needs to do. And you can see that it's going to create the general ledger cube, and it's going to add the drill cube and the pick list cube for the general ledger. Can click next, and that's it. I can just click execute. And this is where Pulse is going to do the magic, where it's creating the cube. You can see it's a bit quick here, but you can see in the logs that yeah, it created the cube, updating the rules, and then loading the data, editing cube data. So now if I go back to Arc, if I refresh my list, I will be able to see the general ledger cube. And now if I select the year, I will be able to see the data. So this is a feature that I've been asked for a long time for our customers, and this is done. And what is great is that, as probably already aware, Pulse supports Tier 1 v12. So if you are using with one Pulse, you can monitor v11 and v12, and you can do migration as well from v11 to v12 with the same Pulse.
And Vincent, a question just came in asking if attributes are included in the migration.
Yes, yeah. Attributes are included if you select source level. So if you go to, so by default, it does not include attribute values. So you need to go under administration inside Pulse, source level, select your instance, and you need to tick this option. So we don't do it by default because getting the attributes for all the dimensions, especially if you have very large dimensions, it takes a lot of time. So it is off by default. But if you have like smaller dimension, you want to migrate attribute values, you need to tick this option, the source level. Once it is ticked, Pulse is going to migrate the elements and the attribute values.
There's also a question about the data migration. So how is the data actually migrated via TI? Also, is the data stored in the migration package?
Yes, so Pulse actually is using a process to export the data into a file that is encrypted, and then it is using a process to load this data into the. It is quite fast because it's a process that is executed inside the Tier 1 instance, which is exporting and importing the data.
And one more question, some good questions coming in.
Yeah.
This one's not related to the data migration. How to create a custom alert in Pulse to send an email if we get a specific message in the server log. Example, could not save queue.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Actually, we have. I will post the link. We email address sending. Let's see if I can find it here. We have, if you use the log output function, I don't have an example. Yeah, this one. I'll post the link here in the chat. Oh, post it here. So this is an example how you can achieve this, and it's a really interesting use case. So you can, the log output function, I don't know if you're aware of it, but it's a Tier 1 function, which is very powerful because you can send any message that you want inside the Tier 1 server.log file. Like, for example, what you can do is after you, in the epilogue of a process that is loading the data from cube A to cube B, and here between general ledger and retail, you can compare the values in the epilogue with the cell get n. And then if the value does not reconcile, you can then put a message in the message log with the log output function. And then in Pulse, there is a message in log alert that is going to check for the message in log. And when it finds this specific text, you can send an email alert. So you can be really creative in terms of alerts you can receive from Pulse. but it will all depend on the message you put in the log output function.
Another question on the live migration there as well. Is a service restart needed for any part of the live migration?
No.
The answer in general is no.
Yeah.
But for instance, if feeders change and the rules and you use persistent feeders.
Well, so what Pulse does is, so when it migrates a rule, it is saving the rule on the target instance. So when the rule save, this is where tier 1 is going to process the feeders. So there is not like, yeah, you would still need to wait that tier 1 save the rules when you migrate a rule. I hope that answered the question. I think so. Well, we just have 5 more minutes. Wanted to show quickly about PowerConnect, but do we have any more questions? Or? Yeah, I think we have the customer alert.
I don't see any that we haven't answered yet.
When do you think IBM will support full change logging in V12? Well, it's a question for IBM. So right now, with V12, so IBM said, so if you're using Penetix V12, the server logs APIs are not available. So they said they are going to work on it soon. Well, you need to ask if you know, you have the phone number of Stuart King, you can call him, trying to chase him down to get it done. But yeah, we are looking for this API to be available to be able to use it in Pulse. Yeah, well, for Luis, do you want to show quickly PowerConnect in 4 minutes, or if you want, I don't know if you had it ready, or yeah, maybe just quickly what you have bit with the hands-on.
Right. Okay, let's just do that. Okay, so basically, so PowerConnect, for those who don't know, is a connector, right? That helps connect your TM1 instance to your PowerConnect. In this case, is PowerConnect desktop. So the way it works, we go into get data. You go into other, and obviously we have our PowerConnect connector. We're working on, correct me if I'm wrong, Vincent, but I think we're working on that full certification by Microsoft, so you can actually have it in a more easy way to find. But that's work in progress at the moment. So if you go and click connect, you will get, in this case, I have only one connection, which is obviously a local connection here on my laptop. And that's a TM1 server, the same instance that you saw when I was doing the slice, showing the slice features. And here are all the cubes that you have in PowerConnect. I think somebody was asking about the control cubes. I guess in some way, if you think about it this way, the security dimensions, where there's some sort of a control cubes, if you will. I know it's probably not what you want to see, but certainly that enhancement request can be actioned at some stage by us. So if you go into, let's say, the general ledger and we open the views, so we have different types of views. So this is how you can click a view, and then you have here the preset value, and then if you want that, well, select it and load, right? So that's how the data gets downloaded. So obviously something that you have to keep in mind is that PowerConnect does not understand multidimensional data. So it obviously is not a technology that is 100% suited for TM1. So you have to play with the data in such a way that you have to basically flat the data in your cube in a 2-dimensional view, right? So it can be tricky at the beginning just to get the feeling for it. But once you do that, and I go into this table view, as you can see, I have on the right-hand side all my different data. So I downloaded this GL data. So basically, I had to put all these dimensions, the version, the period, the count, the measure, the year, the region, and the department on the rows. So stacking them on the rows, so it sort of flattens out, and I can get this download, right? So once that's done, I downloaded different subsets. Basically, sorry, basically these subsets are just displaying the n element, the n elements, and by default, PowerConnect will give you all the different attributes that you have for that dimension, so you can actually do more things with them in PowerConnect, and so on, right? So for example, the version dimension, I only wanted a subset with the actual and the budget for this particular example. So I didn't want the forecast or any of the other versions that I have in the model. And once you have that, you come into this mode view, and that's how you basically in PowerConnect create or connect. You tell PowerConnect, well, actually my GL data is made of the period dimension, the department dimension, the region dimension, and so on, right? This is how you can do that. So with that in mind, you can start building a report like this. So for example, this period dimension, I selected a description and a period, and it's just a widget that allows you to select the different months. And I use the same widget with maybe a different layout for the year and the version as well, right? And the rest are just basically widgets. Again, you have to, we're not PowerConnect experts, so we know basic stuff on how to browse it, how to play with it. But definitely, there are many things that PowerConnect, or the different widgets that PowerConnect can do that we're also exploring in our end. But the beauty, at least with PowerConnect, is once you start, you create a widget, and for example, I select sales and marketing, the whole other stuff is responsive accordingly. So that's something that I like.
Yes, sorry, Luis. I think you said
Yep.
you said a few times PowerConnect, but it's Power BI in this
Power
case.
BI, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so Power BI,
Power BI.
PowerConnect helps you to get the data inside Power BI, and then it's you're working with Power BI limitations and great features. So at the end, yeah, this is the Power BI. But I just shared the link of the hands-on if you want to try what Luis has built. Especially if you're new to Power BI, we have all the steps in the hands-on manual. But yeah, thanks, Luis. I think that's just on time. Do you have any last question before we wrap up this meeting? We are always happy to get more questions and feedback on our support platform or the ticket. So I just posted a few links about our support platform. So please, if you have any questions, reach out to us, especially if you have a bug or if you think there's a bug. But just reach out to us as soon as possible. All right. All right. Well, I think that's it. Let's wrap this up. Thanks everyone for attending this session. And yeah, we keep you posted with and we do the new next session. And in December, we should have a new release of Pulse and Arc with some exciting new features that Harvey didn't have the time to show today, but you will see it soon because it will be available in December, early December.
Such a shame.
All right, cool. Well, have a good evening, good day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.